Welcome back. I'm Randy Patterson. To start today, I'd like you to do a quick exercise. I know this is YouTube. It's supposed to be a completely passive experience that doesn't demand a thing from you. So this is completely unfair of me. Anyway, I would like you to think about some of the most significant issues and problems that you've been faced with in your life. How are you going to manage your diabetes? What kind of career do you want? How do you balance your parents' expectations with your own ideas about a good life? How are you going to pass this biochemistry exam? Which school should you go to? Is it a good idea to take a gap year and go woofing? Look it up. Or should you jump right into the job market? How do I get better from depression? Am I going to try to make this relationship work, or should I jump ship now? How do I design this orchard? Whatever. The big stuff that you have faced, not just, do I want a burrito? Next, ask yourself how much focused attention and thought those problems took. Maybe you solved them. Maybe you jumped to a bad decision. Maybe you tossed a coin and through sheer luck it worked out. Whatever. If you were to really dedicate yourself to finding a good solution to these life challenges, how long would it take you? How long did it take you? And if you couldn't face spending that time and had to choose impulsively instead, how much time would it take to rethink the situation, undo the damage that you've created, and start again? Now, why am I asking you this? My point is that you haven't reached the end of these kinds of problems. You're going to be faced with them over and over and over again in the course of a lifetime. They do not end in a normal human life. And to have a good life, you have to take them seriously. At least some of the time, you cannot respond on first impulse because first impulses are routinely faulty. You've probably experienced that already. So what does it take? It takes the ability to recognize the problem, see your first impulse, just hit them, and hold that impulse back, and then think. Now, maybe you need to do a little mental chess game where you think of the various, yes, the various moves you make or could make, and what would likely happen in each case. You have to take time. And it often feels like, I don't want to waste all that time. But if you don't, you're going to waste even more time later on. But not just time, you have to be able to focus on the problem. It takes attention. And that takes an attention span. The ability to keep your attention on one topic over time. If you can solve the problem how to manage your diabetes in 7 seconds, great. You probably have the attention span for that. But if you can't, then your attention span needs to be longer. And if it isn't, you're going to make a lot of wrong moves. And that leads us to a problem in our society. We used to think of attention span in a way that I think was fairly realistic. We viewed attention as a kind of muscle, something that could be worked on and extended. If that muscle isn't strong enough for the kind of problems that you're faced with, then you can make it stronger. You can gently push the boundaries and get better. But when we talk about attention today, we often think of it as a fixed entity. I have a good ability to concentrate. I have a bad ability to concentrate. And commonly, I have attention deficit disorder. Now, attention deficit disorder really does exist. Some people's attention muscle, if you like, really is weaker than others. Probably not as many people have ADD, attention deficit disorder, as think they do, but some people genuinely do. And what do we do about it? Well, we tend to view attention as something outside the realm of things that a person can actually do something about. Instead, it's something inherent and organic within the brain. It's more like height than strength. And again, there are people for whom that may be true, but not the vast majority. If we think of attention as a muscle, then we can do things to make it stronger, but not just that. We can do things to make it weaker as well. If we want your biceps to become weaker, we know how to do it. We have the technology. Don't lift anything. Make sure you tell everyone, oh, I have weak biceps syndrome, so do not ask me to pick up anything. Can I have a straw for this beer? Over time, your biceps will not stay the same. They will get weaker and weaker and weaker until you truly cannot lift a beer. If we wanted to make the attention span weaker, how would we do that? Well, pretty much the same way. We would never exercise it, and we would never push ourselves. Every time our attention wanders, we'd let it. We'd move on to the next thing. And what does that feel like? You know what your arm feels like when you're picking up something too heavy. What does overextended attention feel like? It's a common feeling, so common that we have a word for it. Boredom. Boredom is what makes us want to put down this task and move to this brighter, shinier one right over here. And if we wanted boredom to set in faster, we know what to do. All you have to do is obey it instantly. Ramp up the stimulation and switch tasks the moment you feel even a little bit bored. What do we divert to? Well, most of us carry a device for exactly that purpose. Finish this sentence. If you get bored, you can always pull out your phone, surf the internet, check social media or the news, turn the music louder. The problem with any of these things is that the rapid switching, this instant giving in to boredom, makes boredom come sooner. So distraction is designed to reduce boredom, and it does so for an instant. But over time, it lowers the boredom threshold, making it a much more common experience. Nobody is as bored as a person who constantly cures their boredom. Maybe you've seen a teenager who for some reason doesn't have their phone and they're riding a bus somewhere or they're sitting on a beach. It's unbearable. They're climbing the walls. It looks like withdrawal, like they're not getting their dose of heroin. A while back, there was a kind of meme suggesting that researchers had found today's humans have an attention span less than that of a goldfish. Well, that was a myth. And in fact, it's hard to do population-wide research over time that demonstrates changes, either good or bad. But at an individual level, we can cultivate our ability to sit with a problem or focus on a task. It isn't set in stone. And the biggest problems in your life are probably going to benefit if you can cultivate a slightly longer attention span. Most significant life problems are not solvable in a 280 character tweet or in the minute and a half before you get frustrated and give up and start looking at your phone. One of the ways that we used to exercise and stretch the attention span was in school. But when I talk to teachers, they say, you just can't do that anymore. These students, they're not going to read for 30 minutes. You can't keep doing the same thing. You need to change it up, turn it into a game, show it a video, or keep changing, or you lose them. When people say this, what I hear is, you have to respond to the level of attention they have. You have to respond to the muscle strength that's already there. You cannot work at building it up. But it seems clear that, yes, you can work at building it up, and you can also shrink it by indulging this boredom. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, look at the old guy talking about young people these days. Just because they spent their lives bored out of their skulls harvesting the back 40 for 10 hours a day, they think everybody should live that way. Listen, that's what media are for, Grandpa. The thing is, if you ask people who routinely do things that you think would make you crazy with boredom, they typically don't report boredom. Their mind can settle onto the task at hand. And without distractions, they can use leftover attention to do other things and solve other problems. Look, I have an orchard, and there are some fairly repetitive tasks that involves. One of them is picking fruit. People often ask me, who do you get to pick? Well, usually it's me. Sometimes when friends are helping out, we drag the speakers out and we play music. And when I'm on my own, genuinely, sometimes I will listen to podcasts or audiobooks, but mostly I don't. Somebody once asked me, like, you do all this stuff, when do you get a chance to write? Those books, those vlog posts, like, the answer is when I'm picking fruit. I hike a lot. And over the last few years, you'll see people doing the most obnoxious thing you can do on a trail, at least in Canada. They're playing this tinny music that we've all heard a million times before on Bluetooth speakers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, he hates this newfangled music the kids listen to. No, I don't. My biggest problem is that young people are still listening to crap from the 1970s, but that's another post. It seems that the environment, what's really there on this hike, it's just not enough for people. Without additional external stimulation, that unpleasant feeling of boredom will come in. And the more you combat boredom, the more dangerous and unpleasant it begins to seem. This is like almost all experiential avoidance. The more you avoid the feeling, the stronger the feeling you're avoiding becomes. Now, my hiking thing sounds a bit judgmental, and it is. When I pass someone playing music on these crappy speakers, I tend to think, you apparently need something to help you not be here. I have a solution for that. Don't come. But partly that's bogus, because my mind isn't entirely on the sensations of the hike either. While I'm hiking, I'm writing, or I'm working out how to handle a difficult case at the clinic, or I'm planning a talk, or I'm thinking about how to steer some aspect of my life. If I lost that time either simply to exist or to think in depth about things, I don't know who I would be. I do know that that space and silence and movement is where most of my better thinking comes from. And believe me, I need all the help I can get. So how do you expand your attention span and stop treating it as a fixed object that cannot be changed? With your biceps, we do something artificial. We lift weights or go to the gym. With attention, I think it's the same. Go buy something at the local convenience store And do not take your phone with you. Settle down to work on something, but start a timer when you do. Stop that timer when you have the impulse to switch to something else out of boredom, when ordinarily you would then check Instagram or see if somebody's emailed you. See how short your attention span really is, and then forget about what you think it should be. Just set your timer for 1 minute longer. Study for 9 minutes instead of 8 minutes. Sit with a task in a silent room. Life can be like a big wave swamping your little boat. Your attention span is the bailer. To have a miserable life, let that bailer shrink to the size of a tablespoon. To have a better one, consciously and gently work to expand it. If you like this video, consider subscribing or commenting. And if you want to explore more ways that our choices can make our lives better or worse, take a look at my books, How to Be Miserable, 40 Strategies You Already Use, or How to Be Miserable in Your 20s. See you again.